The Euros are just around the corner, and seemingly, like every other major tournament, England's odds to win are drawing in a lot of attention, with a consensus seeming to be that, once again, for another major tournament, England's odds are too short. The people in the markets obviously disagree with that sentiment though, as England have been getting quite a lot of backing money, and at the time of recording, currently, England are favourites to win the tournament. So the question I want to ask in this video is, are England too short to win Euro 2024? To answer this question, I'm going to systematically go through England's matches for each round and calculate a final winning odds for England to win the tournament. I'm then going to compare that value to the market value to see if there's any lay value or back value on England to win. Of course, this is just going to be my opinion and you should make your own decisions in the betting markets. In order to price England up, we need to know what the starting 11 is going to be. England's squad is one of the best ones in the competition in my opinion, but depending on how good or bad the starting 11 is going to have a significant impact on how we price England to win each of their matches. We all have our own opinions, of course, on what we believe to be the best starting 11 for England. For the record, this is the team that I would pick if I was in charge, and yes, I am aware that Branthwaite isn't a left back, and also that Anthony Gordon isn't better than Phil Foden, but this team, in my opinion, will provide the optimal balance both in and out of possession to give England the best chance to win on the international stage. What I think is obviously irrelevant. The only person's opinion that matters on what the starting 11 should be is the manager's, Gareth Southgate. We need to try to get into Gareth Southgate's head to try and figure out what he is likely to do and the team that he's likely to pick. If we think about what Gareth's like, we know on the spectrum of all managers, he is towards the pragmatic side of the spectrum. And the problem that England have is many of their best players are in the attacking areas of the pitch, and consequently this presents a lot of a problem. There is a lot of pressure from the English fans and the English pundits, both as stupid as each other, to play as many as the attacking players as possible. When you scroll through the doldrums of social media, you see some of the craziest and most unbalanced teams imaginable. I mean, just look at this monstrosity of a team which was doing the rounds on social media the other day. You've got 3 number 10s all shoehorned into the same 11. And for as flawed as Gareth is, which he is pretty flawed, he thankfully isn't dumb enough to pick a team that is as bad as this mess. And, you know, this type of team will get beaten pretty comfortably by pretty much any competent nation in the competition. Trying to get into Gareth's mind, I think Gareth, in his heart, would really only want to play one of Bellingham, Foden or Palmer, which, in my opinion, would be the correct decision. However, I don't think he'll have the courage to do that given how much pressure he's going to be under from the fans and from the media to play both Bellingham and Foden together in the same team. So I am pretty confident that Gareth is going to play Bellingham and Foden in the same 11, which you assume that would be Bellingham as a 10 and Foden on the left. What is wrong with having Foden and Bellingham in the same 11, you might ask? The problem with Foden on the left is that it affects the dynamics of the team. He's either going to hold the width on the left wing, where he will be super ineffective, as he has been for his entire career out there on the left wing, or he's going to start on the left but drift in towards the centre of the pitch in the number 10 position, where admittedly he is world class in that position, but this presents a problem because then we're going to be relying on Luke Shaw or whoever else is playing left back to hold the width on the left wing. I like Luke Shaw a lot, but admittedly he is just returning from injury and we aren't Man City and Luke Shaw is not Josko Gvardiol, so we cannot play in the same way that City have been playing in the last few months, with Josko Gvardiol essentially holding the width on the left wing, playing as a left winger to allow Foden to drift centrally, to play in and around the number 10 position, play alongside Kevin De Bruyne in there, and it has worked wonders for Foden, who has ended the season really well. With it being international football and not up to the same tactical standards as domestic football, you could also see a third option where Foden is supposed to play on the left but keeps drifting in centrally, and essentially no one holds the width on the left wing, and you know, it's just terrible for the dynamics of the team, and England will struggle to create quite significantly. Essentially, any way I look at it and any way I analyse the situation, I think that England's chances are diminished when both Bellingham and Foden are playing at the same time. But it is what I think Gareth will do. If you don't agree with that opinion, that's fine. I think we've seen enough evidence from the past international breaks where Bellingham and Foden have played together, where the attacking dynamics have been underwhelming. And if you don't believe me, go back and watch the Belgium and Brazil games from the last international break. But like I've just said, Gareth is probably definitely going to play Bellingham as a 10 and Foden on the left wing. So I'm going to run with that assumption as being what he'll play, and consequently mark down England's chances for each of the games as we start to analyse the potential route England off to the final. In terms of some of the other potential selection issues, we have to try and guess what Gareth is likely to do. Right back for a start, is he going to play Trent or is he going to play Walker there? If he doesn't play Trent, will he play Trent in midfield? If Trent isn't in midfield, who's going to play alongside Rice in midfield? Is it going to be Cobby, Gallagher, Wharton, Jones, or even Bellingham deeper and Foden as a 10? We of course don't know what Gareth is going to pick. All we can do is make our best assumption based on the available evidence we have of watching how Gareth has managed England in the past and progress forward with that assumption. And this is what I believe is most likely to play. We've got Pickford in goal, Shaw left back, Maguire and Stone centre back, Walker right back, Trent and Rice in midfield, Bellingham as the 10, Saka on the right, Kane up front and then Foden on the left wing. Most people I think would probably say that the flaws in this team are towards the defensive side of the team rather than the offensive side. However, I think from a defensive point of view under Gareth Southgate, England have been actually pretty good, and I genuinely believe that this defence is capable of winning the Euros. Perhaps that is a little bit of a biased view. As I've mentioned, I really do fear for the attacking dynamics of this team, I would much prefer Anthony Gordon on the left wing out there, but I accept that this is probably not going to happen, and the England fanboys would have a meltdown if Foden was dropped to the bench. I'm going to assume this lineup is close enough to the team that Gareth will play and progress forward with my analysis and try and convert an England win probability to odds and compare that to the market to see if there's any lay value or back value. The first thing I did was to find an online fixture simulator to figure out the potential routes England are likely to have to progress to the final. In my opinion, the best approach of doing this is that we're going to assume that the favourites in the group are going to win the group, second favourites in the group are going to finish second in the group. Of course, in reality, things don't pan out this way, rarely ever. There is usually always some upsets along the way. Problem is we just don't know where they will appear. But for pricing purposes, I think it is best to assume that the most likely outcomes will occur and are going to happen, and we're going to base our probabilities and our prices off that. So if England win the group, they would likely play one of Austria, Romania or Turkey in the round of 16, then Italy in the quarter-final, France in the semi-final, and then one of Germany, Portugal or Spain in the final, assuming all of the favourites win their respective groups and their respective knockout games. If England were to finish second in the group, they would likely be looking at a Germany round of 16 match, followed by Spain in the quarters, Portugal in the semis, and then France in the final. It's fair to say that from an England point of view, not many of these games could be classed as being that easy. There's only really the round of 16 match against either Austria, Romania or Turkey, where England are going to be a strong favourite to win. The rest of these potential knockout matches are going to be much tighter affairs. This will be true for all of the big nations, to be fair. There are very few really easy games in the knockout stages of the European Championships, which makes it such a great and competitive tournament. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, and I've just automatically assumed that England are going to qualify from the group. But even with my English overconfidence, I think that it is a pretty safe assumption that England are very likely to qualify from this group of Denmark, Serbia and Slovenia. But to give myself an actual probability to work with, I'm comfortable enough with just taking the current Betfair exchange price for England to qualify from this group, and I'm going to take that as a reasonably accurate assessment for England's chances to qualify from this group. So given qualification odds of 1.05, what odds would England have to be in these knockout matches to arrive at a final odds to win for the Euros of about 4.1, the current price? Initially, I'm just going to assume that England are going to win their group, which is currently a 1.43 shot, and they're going to have these 4 games that they need to win in order to become champions. I'll be pricing England's games through the lens of how I believe Gareth Southgate will set up England, as we've discussed earlier in the video. But as I'm also viewing this as a way of assessing if England's prices are too short, I'm going to give England the benefit of the doubt here and make them stronger than they probably are. That way it prevents any of my bias sneaking into the position that I'm looking at, and I don't want to find a lay bet where there isn't a lay bet, essentially. So I'm going to mark up England slightly to try and fight against that bias. Okay, first up we have the round of 16 where England are likely to face one of Romania, Turkey or Austria. It's obviously a little bit difficult to price up when we don't know which of these teams we're likely to face, but after doing a little bit of a digging around, I would say that for this match, I wouldn't be surprised if England were priced at about 1.45 to win this game in 90 minutes. Again, this is making a little bit of an assumption that England are likely to be stronger than they probably are. Match odds aren't that useful for us here because we want to know what the probability is of England getting to the next round. So that includes winning the game in 90 minutes, but also includes winning in extra time or in penalties. I'm going to use the match odds from the way I've priced this game up to give me a rough estimate for the odds of qualifying or getting to the next round. I'm not going to break down exactly how to do this conversion, as you know, one day maybe I'll put it in a course or something. But to be honest, this isn't exactly rocket science, and I'm sure you could probably figure it out yourself if you had a bit of a play around with it. Anyway, if we have England priced at about 1.45 to win this match, they would probably be around 1.23 to qualify to the next round. Their opposition in the next round would most likely be Italy. During qualifying for this competition, England were priced at 1.62 to beat Italy when they played the home game, and they were priced at 2.76 to beat Italy away from home. This game is obviously going to be played at a neutral venue. Given what I expect the lineups to be, plus the bias I'm giving to make England a bit stronger, given those variables, I would price this game up as being England 1.8, draw 3.5, and Italy win as 6.0. And given those odds, it would make England 1.32 to qualify and win this game overall, either in 90 minutes, extra time, or in penalties, and to progress to the semi-final. Again, 1.8, that might be too short for this game, and once we've been through all the matches, we'll come back and try some different odds in these games to see what impact it will have on the overall odds of England winning the competition. If everything went according to the most likely outcome, awaiting England in the semi-final would be France, who devastatingly beat England in the quarter-finals of the last World Cup. For that quarter-final, France were a slight favourite. And to be honest, if this match did happen again, I would probably have France as being slight favourites again. But as I've been doing for these other matches, I'm going to give England the benefit of the doubt here and have them as being slight favourites to beat France. What I'll do is I'll take the odds that were present for the quarter-final match in the last World Cup and where France were slight favourites. I'm going to flip the odds, make England slight favourites at about 2.8 and have France being a 2.96 shot. Either way, this is going to make this match, the qualify odds market, to be about evens for both teams. Beating France would send England to the final of the Euros for the second time in a row, and we would be facing one of Germany, Spain or Portugal if things all went according to plan. I have assumed that it most likely will be Germany, as these have the current shortest odds to win out of the three. However, to be fair, if I was pricing any of these three opponents, I would price the odds fairly similarly. So, there's not much difference in it, in my opinion. But if it was Germany, which we're going to assume it is going to be interesting because Germany will essentially have home advantage as the tournament is being hosted by Germany. And that is going to correspondingly make Germany's odds shorter than they would be if it was at a neutral venue. But keeping in tune with what I've done in the previous matches, I will be bullish with England's price and have them to be 2.54 to beat Germany, which would make them a 173 shot to win the final, either in 90 minutes or for extra time and penalties. Now that I've priced each round, we can combine the odds together to get an outright price for England to win the Euros. We have 1.05 to qualify from the group, 1.23 to beat one of Austria, Romania or Turkey in the round of 16, 1.33 to get past Italy in the quarters, about a 1.98 shot to beat France in the semis, and a 1.73 shot to beat Germany in the final. Multiplying all these odds together, we get a final price of 5.9 for England to win the Euros, which is a sizable chunk bigger than the current market price for England to win. And as I pointed out numerous times already, I have been giving England the benefit of the doubt and giving them a favourable chance of winning each of these games, and they probably actually have. And to be fair, you could easily price these games in a way that you get England to be an 8.0 shot, and to be honest, I wouldn't really have much complaints if people did that. Let's go back and take a closer look at these games and see what prices England would have to be for these games to get close to what the market is currently saying the true odds are. Maybe we could say that England should be short against Austria. Let's say hypothetically we make them a 132 shot. Let's assume Italy are much worse than I've given them credit for and give England a 162 chance of beating Italy in 90 minutes. We'll even say that I'm misreading the game massively against France in the semi-final and say that England should be a shorter price to beat France. We'll say that they start the game at odds of 2.32 to win that game. And for the final, let's say that even though Germany have the home advantage, we'll give England odds of a touch above evens, let's say about 2.08 to beat Germany in 90 minutes. After going through this process of massively shortening the odds for each of England's potential knockout games, we could then get odds of about 4.1 to win the Euros outright, which is around the current market price. And to be honest, I just can't see how this can be the case. If we had each of these hypothetical matches take place, I would probably look at each of them and say that England are a good lay bet for each of these games. So I just can't find a way to how you can possibly get odds of 4.1 for England to win the Euros outright. You've got to essentially make England an average of a 1.4 shot to win each of the knockout games if you want to get the current market price as being a fair price, and that is a very difficult thing to do. The potential France game, which England are very likely to have to play at some point if they want to win this competition, is really going to cause the issue with these overall odds to win the tournament. It's quite difficult to ever really see England ever being shorter than 1.9 to qualify against France. And because the current outright prices are so short, if England were priced at 1.9 to beat France, they will need to be priced at about 1.25 on average in each of these other knockout games. And it's a very difficult case to make that. It just really is difficult, especially with so many, decent nations in the competition. And to be honest, things wouldn't be any easier if England didn't finish first in their group. If they qualified by finishing second, that gimme match against Austria, Turkey or Romania would be replaced by another match against a top European nation, and that's going to do nothing but make England's odds to win the competition drift out more. Of course, France or some of these other big nations could get eliminated before England were due to play them, and that would give England an easier game against a Belgium or something. But this is just less probable, and there's just no good reason to assume this would be the most likely scenario, and that's not good for our projection here. Yes, you could say France could get eliminated, and maybe they will get beaten by some outsider along the way, but that isn't the likely outcome, and there's no reason you can't just say that the same fate could just await England, where they get beaten by some outsider. For any nation, as soon as you assume that one of their matches is about a 50-50 in the knockout stages, you have to make them very short in those other knockout matches to have prices of around 4 to be for the outright market. That is just the nature of pricing. I personally wouldn't price England any shorter than 6, and I believe it could be possible that the price may drift in play throughout the tournament on England to win, similar to what Luke Humphries' odds did in the Darts World Championship last year. Then again, I could just be completely wrong, and maybe despite Bellingham and Foden looking absolutely terrible on paper and being bad every time it has been tried in the past, perhaps for this tournament it is just going to work a miracle and England are going to steamroll everyone. As an England fan, I certainly hope that is the case. Will I lay England? Probably not, because even though I think there is a value lay there, I don't think it is worth sabotaging my summer over. I'd rather want England to win instead, and not just be sitting there hoping that they lose just so I could win a bet. The one thing I'm absolutely sure on is there is definitely no back value on England. I think no matter how you analyse it, it is impossible to get odds shorter than 4.1 for England to win this competition. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and you can check me out on Patreon if you want to get access to some exclusive content. I very much appreciate everyone who is currently supporting me on Patreon, and I hope everyone enjoys watching and betting on the Euros this summer.